Welcome to Think Outside the Box, a deep dive. This is put together specifically for you, the learner in Teacher Victoria's ESL class.
That's right.
And today, we're diving into something pretty complex, actually, cancel culture.
It's definitely a big topic.
Yeah, so our mission really is to try and get our heads around what it is, how it works, maybe look at some real examples, see the impact.
And we're drawing on a few things, an article that sort of breaks down the concept, and also a bunch of cases, examples of people and companies too, right?
Exactly, who've faced that public backlash, that withdrawal of support.
Yeah.
We really want to try and get a balanced view, look at the good and, well, the maybe not so good sides of this whole thing.
It's a powerful force, no doubt.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So where do we start? What is it at its core?
Well, fundamentally, it's about a collective withdrawal of support, you could say.
Okay.
So aimed at maybe a public figure, could be a company, sometimes even just, a regular individual.
And it usually kicks off after they've said or done something that people find offensive or unethical.
Precisely. Something that crosses a line for a significant number of people. And what's really interesting, I think, is how this whole idea, which maybe started out kind of niche, online.
Right, on the fringes.
Yeah, exactly. How it's become such a huge part of mainstream public discussion. It feels quite defining now.
It really does feel like it just ballooned very quickly. And it's not just random negativity, is it? Our sources suggest there can be some positive aspects to it.
Oh, absolutely. That's a key point. One of the big things highlighted is how it's given a platform or maybe amplified the voices of groups that historically haven't had much power. Marginalized voices.
Okay, so empowering people.
Yeah. And if you think about it in terms of wider social movements, things like #MeToo, #Black Lives Matter, cancel culture, or the mechanisms behind it have kind of functioned as a tool within those movements.
How so? Like a way to call things out.
Exactly. A way to expose abuse or discrimination or bigger structural problems. It taps into that network effect of social media, you see. So one person expressing disapproval might not do much, but when lots of people do it together online, it can build momentum. It can create this tipping point that makes institutions actually pay attention.
So it's kind of like a digital protest when maybe the usual channels, like complaining officially, don't seem to work.
That's a really good way to put it. It's sort of democratizing outrage, as one source said.
Democratizing outrage. I like that.
Yeah, it allows more people, ordinary citizens, to band together and say, no, this isn't right, and sometimes actually drive real change.
That makes sense. You definitely see that online. People deciding, okay, I'm not buying from this brand anymore, or I won't watch this person's content. But, and this is a big but, right? The sources are also pretty clear that it's not all positive. There's a dark side.
Oh, definitely. That's crucial to understand. Well, the intention might be accountability. It can sometimes slide into something more like, mob mentality. That's a term that comes up.
Mob mentality. What does that mean in this context? Like online pile-ons?
Yeah, kind of. It's where the reaction becomes maybe excessive, really punitive, and perhaps lacks due process in a social sense. People getting condemned very quickly.
Without maybe all the facts.
Exactly. And the worry is someone facing really severe, lasting consequences, losing their job, their reputation, based on maybe one mistake or even something taken out of context.
Yeah, context seems huge here, like a tweet from years ago or a single quote. Our sources mention, a long career potentially being ruined by one moment. That sounds scary.
It is scary. And it brings up this big question about nuance, doesn't it?
Nuanced.
Yeah, like understanding the gray areas, the complexities. In the online world, things move so fast.
Super fast.
And stuff that's short, punchy, maybe a bit inflammatory, that tends to go viral. Nuance often gets lost in that shuffle.
So people get judged harshly without maybe understanding the full picture or what someone actually meant.
That's the risk.
And the fear of that happening. I mean, it must make people really cautious about what they say, especially public figures.
Absolutely. That's the chilling effect people talk about.
Right.
If people, especially maybe creatives, artists, educators, are constantly walking on eggshells, worried they'll say the wrong thing and get canceled, they might just stop talking about difficult topics altogether. They self-censor.
Which could actually hold back important conversations, maybe controversial ones, but ones we need to have.
That's the concern, that this tool, which maybe started with good intentions, justice, accountability, could end up shutting down dialogue, stopping people from learning or growing from mistakes.
It's a real paradox then.
It really is. Potential for good, potential for harm.
Hmm.
It all depends on how it's wielded, I suppose.
Okay, let's maybe look at some of the examples the sources brought up. It might make it clearer. On the individual side, you've got cases like Danny Masterson, convicted of rape, sentenced to 30 years to life. Now that feels different, doesn't it? Less like cancel culture, maybe, and more like the legal system working.
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah.
When you have serious criminal convictions, the public and professional fallout tends to follow those legal judgments. It's accountability through the courts.
But then you have other examples like Doja Cat, backlash over a t-shirt, losing Instagram followers, or Brie Larson apparently losing followers after comments on diversity. That seems like a different category of offense, maybe.
It operates on a different level, absolutely. These show how even perceived missteps or taking a stance on social issues can lead to that public disapproval. And losing followers, for some people, that is a professional consequence these days.
Right, it impacts their platform, their brand.
Exactly. It shows the intense scrutiny everyone's under online.
And the list in our sources is long. Jonathan Majors dropped by Disney and Marvel after domestic abuse allegations.
Serious allegations there.
Sean Diddy Combs facing multiple sexual assault allegations, his image really taking a hit.
Yeah, another example of severe accusations leading to backlash.
Lizzo, too, a lawsuit, criticism over performing at a fundraiser, losing followers.
Multiple things converging there.
It just shows the sheer range of things from, very serious accusations to maybe controversial statements that can trigger this kind of reaction.
It's incredibly varied.
And then there's the past catching up, like Camila Cabello losing followers over old racist comments resurfacing.
Right, the internet doesn't easily forget.
Or Chrissy Teigen facing heat for alleged cyberbullying from years ago, leading her to step back from social media for a bit.
Yeah, these cases really highlight that online history can have very present-day consequences. It raises questions, doesn't it, about, like, a statute of limitations for online mistakes, socially speaking.
That's a tricky one. And it's not just recent stuff either. Ellen DeGeneres, her show ending after those allegations of a toxic workplace environment.
That shifted the focus to workplace culture and accountability.
Dabby losing endorsements after homophobic comments at a festival.
Consequences for public statements, definitely.
J.K. Rowling facing ongoing backlash for tweets seen as transphobic.
A really high-profile example of a public figure facing criticism for their views on sensitive social issues.
Kanye West, now Ye, losing major brand deals after anti-Semitic remarks.
Huge professional repercussions there.
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, that whole trial and the massive public division.
Yeah, that showed how complex public opinion can be and the career impacts for both involved.
And even Elon Musk, with the changes at Twitter X, facing criticism for his management style and platform policies.
Shows how business decisions can also lead to significant public backlash.
Wow, okay, so that's individuals. But companies get caught up in this too, right?
Absolutely. Brands are definitely not immune.
Like Target. Our sources mention a boycott starting or planned over them apparently shifting away from DEI initiatives.
Yes, that's an example of consumer activism responding to corporate policy changes. People using their wallets to express disagreement.
And Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch, that was huge, wasn't it? Losing their top spot after that promotion with a transgender influencer led to a conservative backlash.
That was incredibly impactful. It really showed the power of social media campaigns and how aligning with certain social values can provoke strong reactions from different consumer groups.
Yeah, it seemed to hit them really hard, really fast.
It did. And then you had Starbucks and McDonald's seeing sales dip in some Muslim-majority countries because they were perceived as supporting Israel.
So global politics playing a role in consumer choices.
Definitely. Geopolitical events can really influence how people feel about brands.
And Amazon and Walmart also facing boycotts over rolling back DEI programs similar to Target.
Right, another instance of consumers reacting to shifts in corporate diversity policies.
It's interesting, though, because it's not always one side politically, like Chick-fil-A. They faced backlash from conservative groups when they stopped donating to certain organizations seen as anti-LGBTQ+.
That's a really crucial point. The backlash can come from anywhere on the spectrum. It just shows that any perceived change in stance can alienate some part of your audience or customer base. People are paying attention.
So companies are really walking a tightrope sometimes.
It seems that way. And this isn't entirely new either. One source mentioned the Nestle boycott way back in the 70s.
Oh, yeah. What was that about?
It was over how they were allegedly marketing baby formula, breast milk substitutes, particularly in developing countries. It was a huge deal,
And did it have an impact?
a massive one. It led to international marketing codes from the World Health Organization. So it shows these kinds of consumer pressure campaigns have a long history, long before the internet.
That's fascinating. So it's not new, but maybe the internet just makes it faster, louder.
Exactly. The speed and the scale are what feel different now.
Okay. So pulling all this together, it sounds like cancel culture is, well, it's complicated.
That's probably the understatement of the day.
Yeah. It has this potential, right? To hold powerful people or companies accountable, give voice to the voiceless,
Positive potential there.
but it also risks being like too harsh, too quick to judge, losing that nuance we talked about.
Yes, that risk is definitely there. Mob mentality, chilling effect.
And maybe stopping important conversations from even happening.
Precisely.
Oh.
It's a powerful tool, no doubt. But like any tool, right, it can be used well or not so well.
Which brings us to that question one source raised. Is this the right way to grow as a culture?
Yeah, that's the deeper question, isn't it? It's not just should this person be canceled, but what kind of public square, what kind of society are we building with these actions?
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. So what does all this mean for you listening in, especially as learners in Teacher Victoria's ESL class?
Well, I think for you, understanding this phenomenon is pretty vital, actually. Just for navigating online communication today, interacting across cultures, it really drives home how important it is to think carefully about what you say online, how you say it, because words can travel so fast and have real impact.
Definitely real world consequences.
Yeah.
So this deep dive, it shows cancel culture is this really powerful kind of double-edged sword shaping how we talk to each other, how society works. We've seen it can be a force for change, for accountability, but also it can cause harm, maybe unintended harm.
Absolutely.
We really hope you'll think critically about the examples we talked about.
Yeah.
Consider the nuances, what stands out to you, what feels significant.
Yeah, reflecting on these specific cases can really help develop that more nuanced view, understanding how values and communication and accountability all mix together today.
It really encourages that critical thinking, doesn't it? About justice, maybe forgiveness, how cultures evolve online.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Remember, this was brought to you as part of Teacher Victoria's ESL class. We hope it's given you plenty to think about.
Hope it was useful.
And hey, if you have thoughts or questions about the class or about this deep dive, definitely drop Teacher Victoria a message.
Please do.